Welcome, I'm Kinetic Symphony. This is Dave. I hunt down and report on weird and true mysterious stories, from glitches to the supernatural. Case file number 1758, written by GargleHemlock. Mom's feathered embrace in a bird's grace. A couple of weeks after my mom died, I was driving home from work feeling very sad and a bit angry. I was pissed off at the universe for leaving me alone. I have no other living family left. She was the last. I was thinking about how we both loved birds and would always point them out to each other. I thought, if all that hippie spirituality stuff Mom loved is real, then the least she could do is send me a bird, maybe, as a kind of sign. It was a long drive, and I saw no birds at all. I thought, of course it isn't real. What a silly thing to think. I didn't see so much as a robin or a wren or anything. I parked and walked down the path to my house. While I was putting my key in the door, something colorful caught my eye. I turned. There, at the end of the path, was the most astonishing bird I've ever seen. Every color of the rainbow, a bright yellow gold head, scarlet chest, iridescent blue back, orange gold wings, black striping. It was jaw-dropping. It was the size of a chicken, but a bit taller, with a long tail. It just stood staring at me. I started to laugh and it got spooked and flapped away over the fence. I live in a large city, which made it even weirder. My neighbor came outside and saw it too, so it wasn't a hallucination. I got into the house and started Googling colorful birds of that size and shape, and eventually found it. It was a Chinese golden pheasant? What the hell? There were no bird sanctuaries or zoos nearby. Never saw it again. I took it as my mom rolling her eyes at my cynical rejection of her hippie spirituality stuff, saying, "You want to see a bird? I'll send you a bird." It was so great. Case answer file 1758. Mom's feathered embrace in a bird's grace. This is a touch of beauty indeed. The way you describe the bird? Gorgeous. I wonder, was this your guardian angel sending you this bird? The reason I say that is, well, because I'm always trying to peg a square into a circle. It doesn't always fit between quantum immortality and guardian angels. I believe both are true and exist. There's so many stories of them involved that there's no way they're all fake. One or the other, or both really, are true. At least the majority of them. So if that's the case, how do they fit together? Because why would you need a guardian angel to save you from death? If dying just means you're a hop and a skip over to the next universe, and there's so many that until you die of natural aging in all universes, you're not done. I don't know. It's hard to say. Maybe for some reason you're not supposed to go to a different universe yet or something. But also, I think guardian angels, when not dealing with death, they can be there just to help ease your soul, ease your consciousness. For some reason, maybe it's important that you felt better. Again, trying to extrapolate to potential futures of so many ensembles that it's impossible to predict just one, especially the further out you go. But yeah, I could see that. Or maybe your guardian angel just liked you. I mean, if it's not an AI, or if it is a sentient AI, if it's just humans, they could have, personal bias. If they're meant to be looking out over someone, that's their job. They could grow to enjoy the person, connect with them. And if they see you in pain, they, probably wouldn't want to see you in pain. If they have authority to prevent that pain, or try to ease it a little bit, well, they would do so, right? So that's what I'm thinking on this, trying to square quantum immortality with guardian angels. And in this case, I think it's just a guardian angel being a good guy, pretty much. Case file number 1759, written by nairaf. Campus Quest, Shoe Repossessed. When I was in college, I used to go hiking and trekking a lot with my friends. We used to do it within the campus itself. Our campus was massive. It was an ancient institution that was spread across hundreds of acres of forest land, rocks, ponds, etc. Quite beautiful, but colossal. Once, on a hiking trip some 30 or so kilometers away from my dorm, I lost one of my hiking shoes. I was quite upset, as I didn't want to ask my parents for money to buy a new pair, and I had loved this one. I wasn't sure where it went, but I was sure that it had fallen off a cliff when we went rock climbing. Quite a risky activity without any safety gear. But it was a beloved ritual on every full moon night when there was enough light. I had removed it briefly to sit cross-legged and tell ghost stories with my friends. I somehow returned with some difficulty without the shoe. A couple weeks after that incident, I was walking back from class, into the communal mess looking down and thinking of the shoe I'd lost. I looked up and, as though magic, the lone shoe was in front of me, literally in the middle of the road that led to the mess. It was no worse for wear and I had no idea who'd put it there. I rushed back to my room thinking it was the piece I had, but lo and behold, the other one was still under my bed where I'd kept it. I still don't know how it appeared in front of me like that, precisely when I was thinking about it, weeks after I'd lost it, so far away from where I lived. Case notes for file 1759, Campus Quest, Shoe Repossessed. Okay, so when it comes to DOP, what if the act of conscious thought about the object you lost, focused single-minded thought in any given moment, raises the Q of solving the issue in the real world by the simulation? Maybe there's a queue, a list, and if someone is never thinking about the object they lost, then it falls down on the queue because, it's not a priority for those developers, the managers, because the person is never thinking about it, so they don't really care. We'll return it when we get time, but better to focus on people who are constantly thinking about the object they lost. That makes some sense to me, and I'll play with it. I'll start thinking more about the tennis ball I lost, although even then, maybe it's not just how much you're thinking about it. Maybe it's about the importance of it. Losing a shoe is more important because, walking with one shoe is pretty terrible. I don't know. Something like that. Importance of the item weighed in a basket with how much you're thinking about when the item was lost and all that. Yeah, some combination of that probably affects the queue. It's not just first come, first serve. It would explain why some objects come back immediately and some never come back at all. Case file number 1760, written by One Yogurt Closet 2138. When familiar roads lead to nowhere. My mom was driving me to my longtime best friend's house. I was older than 16, but don't drive due to disability. My friend and I had been inseparable for years, so I had made this drive across town many times. The ride was uneventful until we entered her neighborhood. The route to her house from there was very simple. Take the first right, and her house was at the end of the cul-de-sac on the right-hand side. We did that, but this time her house was not there. We backtracked, did the same thing, and nope, still not there. I called her, very confused. She told me that she would stay on the phone and stand in front of her yard so we could spot her. We repeated the route again, nothing. We finally went down the next street, just in case we were wrong somehow, but still no dice. As a note, the street sign never changed until we intentionally went down the second street. It always showed her correct street name. At this point, it feels like the Twilight Zone, and I'm panicking. I'm ready to turn around and go home, but we went down her street one last time, and there she was, waiting in her yard. There was no way to loop around to other streets or anything, so I have no idea how we could have missed it, especially when the route was so simple and we had driven it countless times. My friend and I ended up having a bad falling out a few years later, and although it wasn't anything sinister that caused a break, I still think of this situation and get an uneasy feeling when I see her on social media. Case notes for file 1760, when familiar roads lead to nowhere. Okay, so we have entire server cluster failure, which is where everything seems to blink out of existence, light and sound, for a split second, a second. What if there's server cluster failure, but only on the memory aspect? So everything that's already loaded remains loaded, and that functions perfectly. But the memory can't load in new data. So what if a neighborhood has like a base template that is loaded in when you're approaching it, but the higher detail isn't loaded in until you get very near to it? So because it couldn't load in the data for you correctly into your mind, then the entire neighborhood simply functioned only as a base template until you left, went to the other street, and then came back. And then they had time to fix the issue with the server, and everything loaded back in correctly. Now, in cases like that, it's not like an object going missing, where that is more easily dismissed, they can solve it later on, not an immediate issue. An entire neighborhood being out of place, well, that people will notice, people will talk about that, so that's a higher priority. So that's why it was fixed so quickly, in my estimation. Now time for the joke of the day. If the person who named walkie-talkies named everything else. Stamps would be called licky stickies. Defibrillators would be called hearty starties. Pregnancy tests would be called maybe baby. Lamps would be called lighty brighty. Very cute sayings, and I think I'll adopt the pregnancy test one, maybe baby. That's pretty adorable. Like the video, subscribe, hit the bell. Kinetic Symphony signing off.